Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Customer Insights webinar session of today. First of all, I'd like to check that everyone is hearing okay. So could you send a message to the chat to confirm if you hear me? Yes, okay, yeah, sound is fine. I can hear. Great. Thank you so much. So everything looks good. Also, to let everyone know, this webinar will be recorded, and after the session, we will post it in our YouTube channel, and I will also send everyone the link to your emails. You will get it a bit later after the session. So I'm your host today. I'm Riina, Product Marketing Manager at Solibri. We don't yet have snow here in the southern part of Finland, so it's looking like autumn here with a lot of yellow, green, and red colors. But hopefully we get snow at some point to make it a little bit later. Today's agenda. So we have case Yoshii and Adriano Balduino and Daniel Petrin from Yoshii will present and share their experiences on multidisciplinary BIM coordination and reporting and Open BIM, and especially challenges on that in Brazil. So very interesting case today. Before we start the presentation, we have just a quick poll for you, and we'd like to ask, how often do you use Solibri in your work? So let's see what it looks like this time with our audience. I'm gonna give you a few minutes to answer, seeing replies coming in. Maturity so far is using Solibri a lot, I would say. So that's nice to see, of course. Let's give it just a little while more. Yeah. Okay, still some votes coming in, so I'm gonna close the poll now. Thanks for your replies, and let me share what it looks like. So over 30% replied that you're using Solibri about every day, which is a lot. So that is great to hear. And then over 20% are using a few times a week. So I would say that over half of you are using Solibri a lot in your work. Thanks for giving your replies. So let me hide this one. But yeah, next we have Adriano Balduino and Daniel Petrin from case Yoshii, and let's go to the presentation they have for you, prepared for you today. So welcome, guys. Just a sec, I will share the screen for you, Adriano, so you can start.
Hi, Riina. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My screen?
Hopefully. Yes, hopefully everything is good for the audience as well. At least no one has commented anything in the chat that would be problems. So yeah, go ahead, guys. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Riina. It's a big pleasure for us to be here and share our knowledge. My name is Daniel Petrin and my friend Adriano Balduino. We are both from Brazil. So first of all, sorry about any mistake with our English. It's not our main language here. We're talking Portuguese. So let's try to do this. So I'm civil engineer, and Adriano is also a civil engineer. We graduated almost 10 years ago. And we are working together something like 2 years ago in the same company, doing all about the BIM. So we studied the BIM, I think, almost our engineer life, 10 years, something like this. So now we are doing the practice. So we work in a company that is located in Brazil. It's called Yoshii, and Adriano is going to show about a little more about our company. You can go then.
Yeah, so this is our program. But first, we would like to talk a little bit about Yoshii. So, Yoshii, just to put you in a perspective, it was founded in 1965, so it is a 55-year-old company. Today, we have two main divisions. The first one is called Yoshii Engenharia em Construções. This division of the company we build for other companies. So today I'm going to show you, for example, some industries. Here we have paper and cellulose, alcohol and sugar, bioenergy, and we have a lot of automobilism. We have a lot of different segments over here. We have, for example, churches, colleges, a lot of different areas. As you can see in this map, we have works all over Brazil, so in a lot of different places. And the second segment of our company, we build for the final client. So as you can see in this image, these are some examples of our buildings. They are located in 4 different cities here in Brazil. So we have Curitiba, Londrina, Maringá in the state of Paraná, and Campinas in the state of São Paulo. As you can see in those images, they are multiple story buildings. They are mainly residential business and buildings. So we are building for people to live, right? The apartments and the high standard division. This is our office. We are located in Londrina, as Daniel mentioned. So this is where people from the first and second division are working at Londrina. And in addition to our head office, we have these other 5 places we call showrooms. So here are where people, the final clients, come to us. They see how the apartment is made to look, and he can try if it fits their needs. So we have one in Curitiba, one in Maringá, 2 in Londrina. So first one is for Yoshii, and the second one is for Ichicom, which is another division focused on the first apartment and the first property for people, and of course we have Campinas as well. So our company is very known to be a great place to work. So we have here some prizes that we received last year, for example. But today we're going to be talking about BIM and how we're implementing BIM in that company. So the first thing that we had to do when we talk about BIM, we had to choose what kind of uses we're going to select, where it's going to be important for us. So we realized that those 3 uses are going to be what we're going to focus on the next few years. The first use is called 3D coordination. So we're using BIM in the design coordination process. The second use, we are using it to operational bill of quantities. So I'm going to show you a little bit later, a little bit more about it, but it is a very detailed reporting, and then we have BIM on site. So how we're implementing and how we're using BIM on field. So to talk a little bit about the 3D coordination, at first we would like to mention our reality over here. So to develop projects, we have those around 10 disciplines by project. For example, what we call a discipline. For example, architecture, interiors, garage, maybe the garage consultant, foundation designer, structural designer, HVAC designer, plumbing and fire protection, and electrical. So here in Brazil, it's very hard to find a company that is responsible for all the design. They have to go to 30-party companies, and they are specialized in a specific field. So we have an architect, we have material architect, we have foundation designer. They are different companies. And as I mentioned, we are working in around 4 cities here in Brazil. So we have in the group at least 40 designers. So we have a lot of partners, a lot of different companies that do the design for us. So me and Daniel, we are working in the design coordination. We do not develop the design inside the company. We hire those 30-party companies, and we are responsible to put all those information, put all those models together. And as I mentioned, so we have 40 different companies that delivers the project to us. So it's very hard to imagine that they're going to use the same solution, right? Because there is not like a solution that is good for everyone. So above that line, you can see those softwares that our designers are using. So our architects, they are all using ArchiCAD. And then when we talk about structure, we have 2 different softwares. We have Tekla, which is used in precast concrete. And we have TQS, which is a national solution. Probably you don't know that software, some of you, because it is a local software, a Brazilian software that makes the analysis and detailing part when we talk about structural. And we have Revit, which is the software that our NEP designers are using. So we had, as the company that receives all those models, to learn all about those solutions. We had to learn what any solution of this can offer to make sure what to ask in our BIM mandate, for example. So we had to know about Revit, about Dynamo, ArchiCAD, Sculptor, TQS in terms of altering tools. When we talk about coordination tools, we have Solibri IFC Optimizer that we use to make all of the IFC file a little bit smaller before uploading to our CDE, which is a Brazilian solution as well. It's Autodoc. And then we are using Solibri to create the federated model. So we put all those disciplines together, and we are using BIM Collab to collaborate with with our stakeholders. So of course, we have in the right side, you have a lot of different solutions that we are using. For example, we use Microsoft Project to develop the shadowing. We use Power Automate to automate some tasks, and Power Apps to develop some apps that makes our life a little bit easier, and SharePoint as a database. And we have this ERP system called Mega that integrates all the company, like accounting and financial and engineering part. So when we talk about 3D coordination, we have Daniel. Do you want to?
Yes. So talking about coordination, how is 3D coordination done? Right. So when we talk with some guys, they say, "Oh, we are doing coordination." Nice. Can we see what are you doing? So they show us clash detection. So we don't like to say we don't think this is the correct way, just a clash detection. So we created 5 rules, and this table is showing our 5 rules about what is to do a 3D coordination. So for us, it's just simple follow the rules. So the first rule is about the schedule. You know, to receive on the data what we will receive. And another one could be about the technical guideline. This is a document about how we will build something. What's the difference between the ceiling and the slab? What's the height of the point, electrical point? So it's a document about technical guideline. Another one is about product guideline. It's almost the same of the technical, but it's about the finishing. And another one about the BIM, because we have to know all the IFC classes, property sets. So we build a BIM mandate. And after the clash detection, but we don't like just to click on clash button. And so we are using Solibri Open to check almost all of these rules. And we have some checklists that Adriano is going to show you right now.
Yeah, so the first one about the scheduling, one thing that we had to do immediately, we separated the modeling part from the drawing part of our activities. So at first we are focused on modeling, we're focused on receiving the 3D model from all those third-party components, and we're putting those models together to make sure the models are validated. Once they are okay, we say to the designer that they are okay to make the drawings and to annotate it. The second thing that we did with our scheduling, as I showed you, we have these three sectors in almost all of our buildings. So we have the typical floor where it is the tower, and then we have the roof and the basement. So we put those three phases in our shadowing. That way we can receive those models a little bit early and try to interfere in the process a little bit earlier. About those guidelines, so the first guideline that I'm going to talk is the technical guidelines. So here we put a lot of our technical specifications. For example, here you can see the height of the electrical points, and then we have a lot of different technical part. What is going to be the waterproof insulation? What is the difference from the balcony from the living room? They are all specified in this technical guideline. And of course, we have a lot of checklists that we sometimes somehow in the project we come here and then we say that this is okay, if it's not okay, or if it does not apply to that project. About product guideline, this is what the user, the final client, can see and can touch. For example, are they gonna have hot water? What kind of spaces it is gonna have a hot water? What kind of spaces we're gonna have air conditioning? And so once we start the new building, we build those forms to make as a database for our designers to make sure if they are following what we want for that specific building. And about BIM mandate, this is the document that we have built to develop our designers. So as you can see, we have a lot of different disciplines, foundations and architectural and plumbing, structural and electrical. So we understood that they are very different situations when we talk about architectural and plumbing. So we had to create it's like a manual. We have a lot of different categories, how the designer is going to put a wall in the model, how he's going to model like a door or a window. So in that mandate, we have all the specifications, everything that the designer must want and need to develop the model as we want and expect to achieve our BIM users. When we talk about building, as you can see in this image, we have a lot of different situations. A lot of, for example, railings, toilets, parking lots, roof. So they are very different components and they are quantified in various ways. So we have to think a little bit about each part and then after thinking about each part, we're gonna build the whole model. So what we want with our BIM mandate at the end of the day, we want to click in an element, for example, a window or a door or even a pipe, and we want to make sure that property values and property sets that we specified in our manual, they are filled. For example, you can see in that image that we have a property set called Yoshii, which is the name of our company. And in that property set, we have a lot of different parameters. We use that parameters, for example, for quantification purposes, and it doesn't really matter the solution that our designer is using. If he's using ArchiCAD or Revit, for example, if I click in a specific element, it must have those properties. And to show you a little bit about how we're using Solibri to check if our property sets and property values are okay, I'm gonna make a demonstration over here. So this is one of our buildings that we're in the design coordination process. So at first we can go here in File, and then we're going to go to Rule Set Manager. So here we have a lot of different rules, for example, Solibri accessibility rules and Solibri common rules. So at first, what I would like to do, I'm going to create a new rule set. I'm going to call it Yoshii. And I'm going to create a new rule set specifically for checking if a specific property set is there. So I'm going to call it property sets. So I can drag and drop a rule over here. I'm going to take a look at all those rules. And as you can see, I have those rule required property set. I can drag and drop that rule to our new rules set. And then I'm going to name it doors as the name of the rule. So as you can see, this rule checks that the model contains required property set and property. And this is exactly what we would like to do. In that example, I'm going to check if my doors have the parameter description. So I'm going to create a new row, and that rule is going to be specific for architectural and doors. Here, I'm going to select the doors again. And what I like Solibri to do, I like to Solibri to take a look if I have the property set Yoshii and if I have the description parameters. So I have here all the parameters that are located in that property set. But now I would like to take a look at the description, because if I don't have the description in our model, probably I won't be able to classify it and I won't be able to quantify it. So I can take a look, for example, if the value exists, I'm going to change for must exist, because this is a requirement. So I can go back to my Solibri. I'm going to click on File, and then I'm going to go and check it. So I'm going to click on Checking. And as a result of my rule, I can see that I have some doors over here that our designer did not fill the parameter accordingly, or he did not map that parameter accordingly. So if I click here in Yoshii, I can see I have a lot of different parameters, but the parameter that I want and the parameter that I need to quantify the door, I cannot find it, which is the description. So it's very easy, very easy to do, and that functionality has been very useful for us. The second rule that I would like to show you that it is all about checking the property values. So I'm going to create a new rule set over here, and I'm going to call it property value. So now I'm going to use as an example that rule property values must be from a grid list. So let's imagine in my model over here, I have a lot of different disciplines, and I have, for example, the plumbing discipline, where are located all of my pipe segments. And we have a database where we can see all those pipe segments. And we have, of course, some description, some agreed list, some pipe segments that are in our database. For example, this is specific for sewage systems, and these are specific for hot water purposes. So we have that list in our database, and we are going to make sure that our designer followed that accurate list. So I'm going to go back to our rule set manager. I'm going to name it pipes, because this is going to be specific for pipe segments. So I'm going to go here in plumbing, and I'm going to select pipes. And here I can select the components and the property that I want to specify and the allowed value. Now I'm going to import it from an Excel workbook. So I can click on that button, and I can bring it from an external place. So here in my desktop, I can show you that I have that list. So of course it will have the same header and the same volumes as Solibri template. So we're gonna make sure that all the pipes, they have the description parameter, and then they are those values over here. So click import. It is loading. Yeah, so I had a problem with Solibri. Probably it's gonna take some time to. Yes, and now I Solibri open our desktop. I'm going to select that pipe spreadsheet. I'm gonna click open, and I'm gonna make sure that all my template is according to what Solibri wants to receive. I'm gonna click the first row, and I'm going to click on the values. I'm going to click finish. So here I imported all those rows, all those values from our database, and I can go back to my file and I can check that model again. So here, what we can see is that, for example, for some pipes, we have that parameter description not filled. So this is an empty value. Probably I'm not going to be able to quantify or classify it. And those pipes over here, they have a description, but they are not in our agreed list. So I have two scenarios over here. The first scenario, I will have to put that description in our database because we're gonna buy in the near future. And or the second, maybe the designer he mistyped something and he did not fill that parameter accordingly. So we have to give the model back and then ask him to upload a new revision. So this is the first demo. I'm gonna go back to my presentation right now. So we use some clash detection as well to make sure that we do not have problems between different disciplines, and to collaborate, to talk with our partners and our stakeholders. We are using a solution called BIM Collab. You probably know it. Here is an example of a presidential meeting that we have done last year. This year they are all virtual ones because of the pandemic, but we are trying to make it work that way too. So when we talk about BIM Collab, the greatest thing that we have used it for is to put the information in a data center and to centralize it, because before we use BIM Collab, we have shared all those issues. We talk in different ways like emails or WhatsApp or even the phone, but they were not registered. So it was hard to know when the decision was made, who made that decision. So here they are all at the same place. Here it is an example of final result of that 3D coordination. This is one of our buildings from Ichicon here in Londrina, and it was interesting because we have, for example, in that image, 3 different suppliers: a supplier for the tower, a supplier for the garage, and a supplier for the foundation. So we had to make sure they are all perfectly working together. Here you can see a picture of the site there to the 3D model. And of course, as the building was precast concrete in terms of the garage, we had to make sure all the holes were there for us to pass our pipe segments, for example, and for the tower as well. So now the second part of the presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the operational bill of quantities. This is when we talk about quantification. So in traditional estimating, probably you need, for example, for a measuring, just the area, right? So we have, for example, a 3-meter height wall, and as you can see, you would probably have these three square meters in terms of division estimate. When we talk about operational bill of quantities, we need to quantify our model the way that we execute on the field. So, for example, to the measuring, I have first, I need to mark that measuring. So I have to quantify it in terms of length, and then I will have to elevate that measuring. So I have to quantify it in terms of square meter. And then I will have to fix that measuring in my BIM. So I will have to quantify that service separately. So why do we do it separately? Because we're doing in different time, we're doing in different days, and probably maybe it's not the same team that is going to execute each work. So we have this thing that we have to extract very detailed reports, and maybe for one element we will not have only one information, but more than one, as you can see. And that in this example, I'm going to talk a little bit about this process of extracting more than one info in the same element. For example, when we talk about a door, there are many ways to model that door. For example, you can model the door, you can model the locker, and you can model the lintel, which is a brick element that goes on top of the door separately. But we can just, for example, extract some data indirectly. So we're going to model just the door, and with the door, I will have, for example, a description that will be the information that I need to buy that door. For example, the size of the door, the width of the door, that is the width of the door, the width of the wall that door is contained, right? And if it opens from the left side, or even if it opens from the right side. So I have all this information in the description parameter, and I can have, for example, a parameter called internal locker or external locker, for example, and it can be a Boolean parameter, so that way I can extract that data indirectly. I don't need to model that locker, but I can have that information. And we have, for example, a parameter for specific for the lintels, which, for example, in this case, we have the size of the door plus 0.6 meters that composes that parameter. So we are saying that we are extracting more than one service from just one component. So here it is an example of the final result when we're talking about permission takeoff. And oops, close it. Sorry, I just closed the presentation. Yeah, one thing that it makes a little bit hard for us to is that we have more than one service or element, and sometimes that service goes to different places in our WBS. Let's say, for example, the lintels service, it will go to an activity called measure, and the door and the locker, they will go to a different activity called internal doors, for example. So this is something that makes it is one of our challenges to organize that data for us to be able to see them later. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you. Let's think about multiple classifications. So I'm going to go to the information takeoff definition. I'm going to create a new classification, and I'm going to call it doors. So I will filter the doors elements, clicking over here, and I'm going to go to classification rows. So here I will create a new row. So in that row, I'm going to select the parameter associated with the locker. So I'm going to go to property sets. I'm going to select the Yoshii property set, and I'm going to go to the internal locker parameter. And once that parameter is true, I'm going to include an internal locker service. So I'm going to internal locker. And then I will do the same for the external locker. So I'm going to create a new row. I'm going to put an asterisk over here, which means we'll take all those elements. And I'm going to edit that column and select the external locker parameter. Once that parameter is true, it will mean that I will have an external locker. If I click OK, I can see that Solibri already shows me that we have all those doors which has the external locker, and I have the doors that they have the internal locker. I can even, for example, put some color to make my visualization a little bit better. For example, for the external locker, it might be red, and the internal locker, I'm going to say it is a green color. That way it becomes a little bit easier for us to understand where I have the internal locker and where I have that external locker. But I would like to talk a little bit about multiple classification, not only simple classification. So as you can see, we have this classification method today. Now it is configured to the first match. What we want to do, we're going to click in the settings, and I'm going to select allow multiple classification names. So that way, Solibri will not only see if it matches that condition and stop, it will go to every row and see if it fits that rule. So let's create, for example, a new row over here, and I'm going to edit the column about the description right now. So I'm going to select the description of the door. So I'm going to put an asterisk over here. And once I click here, I can see all the descriptions of doors I have in my project. I will select, for example, that door over here. And I'm going to put some description. For example, this would be a wooden door, 90 to 210 centimeters with the width of 17 centimeters. This is the width of the wall, and it opens from the right side first. And I'm going to do the same for another door, which will open from the left side, which is going to be this one. So I'm going to click it, and it's going to be left. Okay. So if I click OK right now, nothing is going to happen because I didn't change the classification method. But once I click in all matching over here, you're going to see that Solibri will apply not only one classification per element, but more than one. So a door that has an internal locker might have the internal door service or external door service, for example. And it is very useful for us to extract more than one service for per element. To finish that demo, I'm going to create an information takeoff definition specific for doors. And my criteria over here is going to be, I'm going to select only when the classification door is defined, right? So it will apply only when it passes that classification. So I'm going to take off and I will change that point for classification and the doors value, and I'm gonna unselect this value to 1 row. So that way I can have over here quantification for external lockers and internal lockers, and for a door that meets that condition, and for a door that meets that condition as well. So I can quantify a lot of different ways. And of course here I can create, for example, the floor if I want to separate it for the floor, and I can make whatever I want with that table. And I can even report it if I want. I can put in an Excel spreadsheet, and I can visualize that data in an Excel spreadsheet. So that's it for that demo. I'm going to go back to the presentation, and now we talk a little bit about data management. So it's very important to know how to organize your data to make sure you're going to visualize it a little bit easier. For example, in this project, we have 3 different buildings and we have walls and floors. Sometimes we're gonna ask ourselves, how much does the building 1 cost? Sometimes we're gonna ask ourselves, how much do the walls of building 1 costs? And sometimes we're gonna know, but if you would like to know, for example, how much all the wall costs, we had to like make a sum to the first building, the second building, and the third building. So when we're talking about organizing the data, we can make that WBS the way we want, and we can extract that data the way we want. So we have to make sure we are organizing the data very well for that analysis to be easier. We are using Power Query and Power BI solutions to make sure that we are dealing well with data. But the whole idea over here is that we're going to receive a lot of different designs, the architectural design, the structural design, the MEP design, and we're going to put that designs in a federated model in Solibri, and we're going to extract a lot of different tables, a lot of different information takeoffs from that model. So we're doing the same process not only for 1 building, but for a lot of buildings, for example, for those 5 buildings, and we're going to have 4 different tables. And this is a video where we're going to show a little bit about the result of the work. So we can see the building in different ways. For example, here we are using an activity level. Take a look at masonry and plumbing and floors and external walls, and then we could maybe see in a different way. For example, that way we're just seeing the basement. Now we are looking about tower. Sometimes we would like to see it by level. For example, the first floor, the second floor. So we have to organize the model to be able to make those analyses. And it's very nice to see that in the left side we have building from Yoshii, and the right side we have building from Ichikon. So, and as you can see, as they follow the same BIM mandate, they are very similar in terms of data extraction and the result that we can achieve with those different buildings are pretty much similar. So here are the takeoffs. As you can see, we like a lot about the Solibri visual feedback. It's very simple. When you click in the row, and you can immediately see that element in a specific color, which helps us a lot in terms of seeing what was modeled. And of course, once we did that, we created a lot of data. We created a lot of different tables, and we had to create a methodology, a way to manage that data. For example, our internal client over here is our planning department, so we have to deliver those quantities for them. So in a typical project, we have a lot of tables, a lot of reports from architectural design, a lot of reports from structural design and MEP designs. What we do, we put all those reports in a big list, a big table, and we connect that table to our database, and then we get the service code and the WBS, what activity that service is should be, and we that way we built a way that we sorry we have a lot of different revisions. For example, we do it periodically. For example, every month we track how the quantities are, and we can have a lot of indicators as this image shows to us. So that way we can monitor the project, how it is doing, if it, how are the quantities, they went up or they went down, and they are according to our category, they are according to what we expect for that building. So for each activity of our design, it helps us as in addition to Solibri to see if the quantities are going down or not, or up, for example. And that this is what we call the database coordination, because the numbers and the indicators, they help us to know if the elements are modeled or not. And to finish our presentation, we would like to talk a little bit about being on site. So this is one of other building. So we have here all the designs. So within of course, we have much better quality when we're talking about drawings. We have symmetric, we have elevations, all the data, all the designs that go to the field, they have more information. And we are trying some different technologies in terms of field. For example, this is a Brazilian company called Construct In. We made a partnership with them, and that way we can compare, for example, with a 360 camera, the model, the BIM model, and in the field. So you can that way make sure that all the holes are there, for example, and we can, with that tool, this is a simple 360 camera that we put on the field. We have to go to specific places to take that pictures, but we can compare, for example, different dates, how the work has changed or not, and we can have that view in different points. So how was in each of the dates. So we're still trying to a lot of different technologies going cloud to see how them can be useful on field, but we liked a lot that experience and that. So this is some of our buildings. We started that job last year in 2019. We have those 3 buildings, and in 2020, our challenge is to apply that methodology, apply the method in different buildings. And to finish our presentation, we would like to talk that we have a channel on YouTube, me and Daniel. So it is called Sala BIM. The videos are in Portuguese, so they are not in English. But what do we want with that channel? We want to collaborate. We want to talk about good practice. When we talk about BIM, we want to talk about interoperability, how to export some file, how to import that file accordingly, how to manage data, those queries, extraction, transform, and load things. And we're talking a little bit about authoring tools as ArchiCAD and Revit, and coordination tools as Solibri. So we think that we don't need to develop only our designers, our partners, but we have to share that content that sometimes it is available in the internet, but not but it's kind of hard to find. So we're trying to make it easier for people to understand about those processes and to export better IFC files. So Rina, that's it. What we'd like to show you, and
Thank you
thank
so
you one
much.
more time for the time we had over here. It's very nice to show what we're doing.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So everyone online, if you have any questions to Adriano or Daniel, please just go ahead and send those to our chat, and we will now start going them through. I have already a few questions that have come in, so we can start looking into these. The first question we got is that what software or presentation tool are you using for the modeling manual, and is it offline or online?
We tried a lot of different solutions. Today we are using something called Prezi, where we can making it in a presentation way, so it's not like a static document. So it is kind of a presentation. We try to make it as simple as we can to understand, and not only the specification, but it's kind of a manual how to get there. I think it makes the life of our designers a little bit easier.
Yeah. Okay.
And it is in our accommodating environment, so it is over there, so everyone that needs to have access to that document can be found it over there.
Yeah. Then we have a question that do you use real global coordinates in BIM models or random agreed coordinates, for example, close to 0?
Usually, the architect is the one that defines which is going to be the 0 point, the X, Y, and Z 0 point. But we don't usually use the absolute level. We use a reference level. So we usually have the access level of the building. So this is our 0, 0. 0 in terms of the elevation, and the architect is the one that selects the X and Y point and make it available for the other designers to make sure that they are in the same place.
Thank you. So still a few minutes if you have any other questions. There is also a thank you for your presentation, and that there's someone who will start to follow you. So that's nice to hear.
I just would like to say that now we are in a new phase with our BIM. I like to say that the first phase was about to construct the BIM mandate and to teach our designers trying together. And now we are using all the data and all the model. I don't know why the video about construction didn't run for me. I don't know for you, but we are now using all of information that we put in our model. So this is a great new phase for us.
Thanks, Daniel. That's good to know as well. There's a question about quantities. When you have an opening, like a window in your masonry, are there any standard rules how you account them? Or do you only use net quantities?
Yeah, this is a polemic over here in Brazil, because if you go to some literature and books, there is like a way of quantifying that is not very easy to apply when we talk about them. And that way, we thought it would be better to use net quantities. So we do not consider the openings. We are using only the net area in that cases.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then what about, are you using any 5D software?
Not really. So as you could see, we are in our department focused on the coordination and to deliver that quantities to our planning department. So Solibri, I think we tried a lot of different tools, and I think it is the best one for doing the job. And I think the visual feedback is amazing, and that is the reason that we are using it. So for us, Solibri, even though it doesn't show the how much it costs, it's not really connected to our database in terms of money. It is a very good solution in terms of the quantities. So the association with the money we're doing elsewhere, we're doing with our ERP.
All right, thank you. Then someone is saying that your English is very good, and your next step maybe could be to make your channel in English. So there's a request you can consider.
Thank you.
Then,
yeah, probably we're gonna consider that, but let's see how many subscribers we're gonna have after that presentation.
yeah. Okay. Then there's a question: how do you deal with architects and other engineers to make sure they will prepare the files correctly so you can apply it on Solibri?
Yeah, so in our BIM date, that document that I showed you, we have a phase that is like what you should do before you upload your file. So we have created that. It's kind of a checklist that the designer can take a look and see if everything is going well. So this is what we're doing. Of course, sometimes you have to check and to give the model back to our designer for him to take a look and to send it over again. But that way, I think we're achieving a very good result. It was a little bit hard in the beginning, but nowadays, for example, they are already used to that process, so it is a little bit easier right now. As I mentioned, we have like a lot of different companies, 40 companies, but they are our partners. So they usually do not work only in one building. So if they work in one building, they're probably going to work in another building. So it makes it a little bit easier.
Okay, thanks. Then we have a question. I'm not actually sure, is this more for you guys or for us? We also have Lauri from our team on the line if there's Solibri related questions. But yeah, so there's a question: is it possible to extract information from DOM geometry using Solibri? I don't know if Adriana or Lauri, one of you can say something to this question, or.
Yeah, I think if I understand correctly, it means that if there isn't the quantities are not set in a property set, like in this Yoshii property set, there is also a possibility to get quantities from Solibri, at least according to the bounding box of the components. So Solibri does calculate quantities also according to the geometry of the components. But if you want to have like really like I would just say like a lot of different kind of quantities, then it's good to have your own properties exported from the authoring tool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
For some kind of elements we use that feature of Solibri. So, for example, for areas and for volume, it makes a very good job in terms of quantifying it. But I think once we obligate our designer to map the information, they are going to be worried about it. They are going to take a very good look, and we are going to have a better result.
Yeah. So we are starting to run out of time. There's still a couple of more questions. I don't know how much in a hurry you are, Adriana or Daniel. Do you have already another meeting coming, or can we take a couple of questions more?
Yeah, you can take
Yeah.
We have more minutes.
Yeah. So let's take a couple more minutes for the final questions. So do you use Solibri for checking model revisions every time it changes, or how do you manage changes?
Yeah, there's a rule. We didn't talk about that rule today, but that check is that changes, and it is very helpful for us to understand what exactly changed. We have in our design process a requirement that every time our designer uploads a new model, he describes what he changed from the last one, and that helps us as well. And as I showed you in the presentation, we have the BI that can help us in terms of if the quantities change, probably the project the design has probably changed as well. So we have these three different ways of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Then there is a question that how mature BIM is in Brazil overall. What can you share about that?
I think you guys can talk a little bit about it after our presentation compared to what you're seeing all over the world. But let's talk a little bit about Brazil. I think it started around 2014, 2015 to happen over here. People are still knowing a little bit about the altering tools, how they are going to deliver that design on them, and they're not really worried about these IFC things that we showed you. So that it was exactly the reason we created the channel to make it more popular over here for people to know how these importing and exporting processes work. And but I think at least here in our state, we are not the only ones that are doing. Of course, there are other companies, which is great for the market. So we're still in the beginning. I think, as Daniel mentioned, we had to do this job in terms of mandates to designers to feel what we want, and now we're going to start to enjoy about that data and to make them useful for our business.
Thank you. So final question. So can you measure angles from for example, between two walls in Solibri? This I don't know if Lauri is best to answer this, or if you guys want to comment.
I actually sent already like answer directly to the
Mm-hmm.
last question. So this is something that is not currently possible in Solibri, but if you look at the Solibri APIs, this is definitely something that you could calculate with the APIs for different components. So if you have some more specific information that you would like to calculate based on the geometry in the model, then with the APIs it is possible, but requires of course some developer skills.
All right. Thanks a lot, Lauri, and thank you, Adriano and Daniel. Let's end the session here. I guess we covered all the questions, and people are also sending their thank yous for you to the chat. So it was great to have you present today for us. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you one more time. It was a very nice experience.
Thank you. Final notice before I end the session. Our next webinar that we are going to have is an assist webinar session where our experts Ken and Lauri will share some more insight on our new VCF Live connector solution. So in case you're interested in using that or already are using it, this session is definitely for you. So it's on Wednesday, 2nd December. You will get a link how to register to this session after this webinar later today in your emails. So check that out. But yes, this was our session today. Thank you, everyone. It was great to have you join us, and we will also share info on the next customer insights sessions, hopefully soon. Have a great day and stay safe. Thanks and bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.